So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Easy Conversations. I just want to start off by saying thanks a lot to everyone who listened to the last episode featuring the homie Dallas Dunn. Dallas, you absolutely killed it on there, and we look forward to having you on again down the road. So now for episode 85 of Easy Conversations. I'm extremely excited, of course, to be back in the studio virtually with the homie Matt. So what's up to the people?
What's going on, everybody? Hope everyone's having a great day right now. Can't wait to do this episode with our guest tonight. She's already been on once or twice. I'm going to say once. And I just came back from the movie last night that we're about to talk about, so I could not be more pumped. So, Eric, why don't you introduce our guest?
So like Matt said, we're tapping in with a fan favorite guest, everything and anything and everything Harry Potter aficionado, a wizard, if you will, in her own right. My friend Christine Houde. Say what's up to the people.
Hey guys, I hope everyone's doing great. Excited to be on here, obviously. Thank you for having me. And I'm so pumped. Also, spring is in the air, and I'm hoping that is it for snow. I was not impressed yesterday, but hopefully summer is coming up soon.
Agreed. It's a good thing I still have my winter tires on, and I also made a promise on the pod that I'd be changing my own winter tires. We're going to get into that later. Then I'll figure that out by next episode. But anyways, for this episode, we're going to be focusing on the Fantastic Beasts and Fantastic Beasts universe, basically the latest additions to the Harry Potter cinematic universe. And starting with the latest movie, so Fantastic Beasts and the Secrets of Dumbledore. So a movie that's fresh on our minds, like Matt said, he just watched it last night. Kristen and I went to see it last week, so very fresh. It's a good spot to start. Just start with the latest movie. So Chris, I'll hand it off to you first. What were your thoughts on the latest Fantastic Beasts movie?
I'm going to say that I probably think it was my favorite one. It would have been a debate between the first and the third. I thought they were both very different, so they're a little bit harder to compare, but definitely a step up from the second one, which is good because I was a little worried walking out on the second, and coming in with the third one, I wasn't too sure how they were going to go about it, but I really, really enjoyed The Secrets of Dumbledore, and I think I'm going to let Matt give his opinion, and then we can discuss why we think each one was better or worse than the other.
Yeah, like you, Chrissy, I agree with you. Overall, okay, so each Fantastic Beast to me is completely different, and I went in, and the third one to me is my most favorite, and I'm going to get into my reasons later, but just no, like I had no expectations last night. I went in, I was thoroughly enjoyed the whole time, even 2 hour 20-minute running time, not too bad, but I had a blast. It was really fun seeing it on the big screen, and yeah, those are my initial thoughts. How about you, Eric?
Yeah, I think it'll be a 3 for 3 across the board here. I was definitely very pleasantly surprised with this one. I went in with kind of low expectations based off of how I felt on the last movie, Crimes of Grindelwald, but also optimistic in that, okay, you'll remember I said on the last pod, I did like what they did with Credence. Controversial opinion. I liked Aurelius Dumbledore plot twist. So I was interested to see which direction they'd go in with this movie. And I do like what they did overall. Yeah, it's a good movie, honestly. 2 hours and 20 minutes. For me, it went by pretty quickly. Like, it didn't feel like an overly long movie despite a very long running time. Like, 2 hours and 20 minutes, not a short movie by any means. But no, overall I enjoyed it. Probably, honestly, my favorite one of the three as well. Between the first and the third, of course. But this one, like, had more intrigue. I'm a big fan of everything and anything. Albus Dumbledore and Grindelwald, I think, is like now kind of going to be taking over the narrative going forward with these movies. But anyways, yeah, those are my opening thoughts. Where do we want to segue exactly now? Maybe what they did specifically in the movie. Chris, do you want to kick us off in like what you like the most out of the movie, and then we can go from there?
I have to agree with you that I think the Albus and Grindelwald storyline is much, much stronger than anything we saw in the first or second movie in terms of plot or narrative. And I think their characters are much more engaging and relatable than the ones we saw mostly in the first movie. I think that would be the weaker point of the first movie compared to the third was that the first one had a lot of really fun creatures, but in the third one, I agree that the narrative is building towards something. I think that any Harry Potter fan who remembers in the Harry Potter franchise alluding to the famous fight between Grindelwald and Dumbledore will get to now kind of witness that part of history coming up. So I think building towards that is what was exciting in the third movie. There's no denying this time that that big matchup is coming up, and they displayed, I think, the tension between the growing political movements very well. And I don't know if you want to step into characters right now or wait a little bit later. Maybe, Matt, if you want to share something that stood out for you with the third movie in particular.
Yeah, for sure. The two main things I loved about this movie, the first thing is acting wise, Jude Law and Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah.
I won't say more. We'll save that for characters, but that's my favorite part of the movie. And then the second part is the adventure aspect that we've seen in other movies. Like, you know, you start by rounding off like who's going to be joining on this mission or task. So you have that, and like this movie doesn't do that perfectly. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not like a perfect movie where it's like, but like they did a really good job of like reintroducing the characters, who's coming along for the ride, and then them going off on their own little like side quests and then joining at the end. I love that aspect of the movie, and like Eric said, like that wasn't, the movie was never boring for me because of that aspect. What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, I agree with what you both said, honestly. Like, I also like the rallying of the troops and bringing the whole gang together for the Italian job style heist, in that they're trying to muddle with Grindelwald's prescient visions. And like in this version of Grindelwald, we're seeing him having like some sort of foresight abilities that they're kind of trying to mess with, like throwing different alternate futures down his path and like seeing how he'll react to it, just in with the hopes of throwing him off. It was confusing for a bit, honestly, like, particularly the character of Yusuf Kama. That was completely lost as to what this guy's whole motive was the whole movie until the end. It's like, okay, this is what this guy's there for. But other than that, and like you said, Matt, I'm glad you did say that. Like, it wasn't perfect with the slew of characters they brought around. Like, I will say, like, there are a lot of characters, basically. Like Yusuf Kama, I had to Google what this guy's name was. I know you know who I'm talking about there, but very confusing. There are just a lot of characters in this movie that it was kind of hard to keep up with everything that was going on. But overall, your core, anchored by a Jacob Kowalski, again, he steals the show. The guy's the goat of your non-Dumbledore Grindelwald crew. I'm going to say right off the bat, Newt stepped up in this movie. By no means was he an incredible protagonist, or I didn't like him, but he was definitely better than in the first two movies. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll notice I'm trying to sit up straight, and Newt is a fine example as to how you do not want your posture to look like, because Mans is always slouching forward, and just that's all I could think of the whole time. A little bit of a rabbit hole there that I went down, but overall I did like what the crew brought to the table. Especially, honestly, big Theseus Scamander fan. Like, why isn't he our lead character? Way cooler than his younger brother Newt. But anyways, that was a lot.
I have to agree. Yeah, I have to agree. I like that in the first movie, like you guys pointed out. In this one, the whole crew doesn't just follow around one leader throughout the movie. The crew was actually pretty split up by the end of the second movie, and that was kind of disheartening. And now to see them come back together, but bit by bit with their own side quests, like you said, I thought that was interesting as well. It enabled maybe to dilute a little bit the Newt parts of the movie, since not everyone's with him, and allowed for some slight redemption as well on some story arcs.
The third one gave us, like, the first one was full on Newt Scamander, and the third one was just like him. Like, that's why I think the third one's all our favorite, is our favorite for us all. What you said before, Chrissy, the social political thing, I love too. The whole like with the International Confederacy of Wizards. Don't quote me verbatim on like what that's called, but like that was really cool. The election, that tiny creature that can like see if you're kind.
It was pretty adorable. Yeah,
it's the new Baby Yoda of the Harry Potter universe.
just gonna get into Grindelwald here. Like Mads Mikkelsen, glued to like my eyes are glued to the screen when he's in any movie or show he's in. He's a phenomenal actor. I was
great,
just thinking of Hannibal the whole time watching this movie. Like,
That's funny. I was thinking of Le Chiffre.
Oh.
To me, that's who I see when I see his face. But I agree, he was terrific. And I'm a huge Johnny Depp fan, so I was really disappointed when I heard that he wasn't in it. I respect Mads a lot, so I knew that he would still have his own performance. But I like that they both, I find, portrayed Grindelwald in a different way, slightly different way. So that was also very interesting, and I'm happy with both portrayals in terms of the angle they show us about Grindelwald.
Yeah.
You never want people to recast someone like that, but I mean, they picked the right actor. Don't try to copy Johnny Depp. Just do your own thing.
That's the thing, exactly. He didn't try to copy him.
No one can copy Johnny Depp. He's so unique.
It's tough
I found that, go ahead, Eric.
I was just gonna say, like, on the Johnny Depp versus Mads Mikkelsen debacle. I was a big fan of Johnny Depp in as Grindelwald in the second movie, but it's been so long that I can't really even remember how his portrayal was like. And now there's recency bias creeping in. Like, I really liked Mads as Grindelwald. I'll probably lean towards him right now as being the better one, because he seemed, from what I'm remembering anyways, Mads was more cruel and just also cooler, I think. Like, Johnny Depp's was a little more uneven and I don't know, just a little more maybe crazier, whereas this one was more intimidating and always in control, it seems, of the scene. Like, in every scene he was in, like, he was controlling what was happening, like with Credence, with Yusuf, even when he met up with Albus at the beginning of the movie, like, he was in control of that conversation. Albus looked more flustered and like on the giving into his emotions in that scene, which I did like that exchange to open the movie. But no, Grindel Mods, he killed it. I was a big fan of his, and yeah, that's what I got on Grindelwald.
No, I completely agree. I did think that Johnny Depp was more of the smooth, suave type that's charismatic and plays games with people, and he's more persuasive, whereas Mads seemed just cold, like you said, in control. He didn't seem to relish things. It was more like this was his mission, or he's just devoted to the cause. I did find, though, that it's harder to see how a young Dumbledore could have formed an attachment with him if he was always this sort of person, whereas with Johnny Depp's portrayal, you could see, like you said, a slightly softer side to him. But then again, obviously, they've been apart for several years, so there's room for a lot of change in terms of the character that we currently see portrayed by Mads. But I agree that given also, like I said, the political agenda, I find it worked well to have a colder, more active and strong portrayal of a leader.
Well, yeah, I also love the socio-political, like all the time spent in Germany, and like obviously the like Nazi Germany implications in there as well, like, were very interesting. I loved the scene, and I think this was in one of the trailers, when Mads or Grindelwald is just in the mob, and everyone just swarming around him and like kind of pushing him to the front of the embassy or wherever they're meeting up. Just like a boss, just in control. And I was a big fan of that scene, like a very little scene. You know, I'm gonna show it some love, and when like he gets out of the car, and despite his devout followers' pleads to not get out of the car, he's like, no, never mind with that. I'm going out there with my people. And I was kind of hoping at the end there that he would get elected and be the new face of the world of the international world of magic. But of course, the whole plot was building up with the Quilin, I believe is how you would phonetically read it, the beast that he had bewitched and like used some sort of necromancy magic on. You knew it wouldn't stick, and that he would be ousted by everyone's favorite magizoologist Newt, and his trusty assistant Bunty came in clutch at the end there. But I would have liked to see this movie end with Mads on top. That's my only little quarrel with how things happened for him.
I think you might see that with the fourth one. Like, I if I recall, they only pretty much mentioned Grindelwald in with Victor Crumb in the Harry Potter universe and stuff. So I think a little bit in the fourth and then in the sixth or seventh. But at some point, he is pretty much the leader and has control. So I think we're going to see a bigger presence from him in the next one or the one after that. And then eventually his own people turn on him, if I recall correctly.
So
from the books.
I think this would have been the movie to do that. And then you have number 4 maybe where, not to fully skip ahead to the future of the franchise there, but I think this could have been the time to make that like shift in order in the wizarding world, but hey, we'll see what they do in the next one there, because it'll happen most likely there. Maybe even a grandfather of the Victor Crumb family tree will be introduced, and those ties will come in somehow. Who knows? But yeah,
that's true. I get what you're saying. So pretty much by the end of the movie, there wasn't that much change in terms of the wizarding role yet. Yeah,
and that was gonna bring my next point. Like, playing devil's advocate here, like this is like a filler movie. Not much is like at the end of the movie, Dumbledore's going after Grindelwald. Like, but basically all that happened was he doesn't have the pendant with the blood pact in it, right? And that's
true.
Like
not now.
Yeah,
exactly.
But a lot of character development in this movie and like closure on a lot of characters. So this is what this movie accomplished. If like someone were to attack the narrative and the weak storyline, like no, there's a lot of like stuff going on. There's a lot of humorous scenes too, but there's a lot of like the Jack and Queenie, Jake, and Queenie, and Credence, Eric's favorite character.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, there's 100% closure on that character, like, especially with all I was reading up before this pod. Like, Ezra Miller's just been in the hottest of water over the last year's span. Like, he's done in this franchise. There's no way they're bringing Bare Bones back into the mix here. And I honestly thought he was just gonna die in this movie. Like, it almost seemed like when he was walking up those stairs to come up to the Citadel or wherever they were, and it was like he was walking to his doom, like to his tomb. But I like what they did with him, kind of. I mean, I thought, honestly, from his first scene in the movie, he looked badass with the long hair when they're creeping up on the Mother Quilin, and the music was like kind of sinister too. I was like, all right, this is what I wanted. Like when I said it last pod too, I want fully evil Credence. But after that, he was still just conflicted and just weak and soft. And then he turns relatively quickly. So kind of fitting that his character goes through the ringer, ups and downs. And now he and Aberforth should just like dip and have their own little side movies that we never see, because there's nothing more to do with this character. Like, we know Aurelius won't be around in the future movies. I think it's a good spot to wrap a bow up in Credence, aka Aurelius's storyline.
Yeah, they phased him out relatively well. You're saying there's no point bringing him back and dragging him around any longer. I liked him in the first one, to be very honest. I thought his character was a little more, he drew in a little empathy with his situation in the orphanage. And the second one, it was so confusing where just make up your mind, what is your name?
Yeah.
And the third one, I agree, he was like half dead already. And that's one thing that I found I was a little bit disappointed of with the franchise was Credence's storyline, and it was much more prominent in the second movie, which I think led to so much confusion in terms of it's hard to follow a plot or care when you hardly believe what's being said because it keeps changing every 30-40 minutes. And so I'm glad that they've shifted from Credence much heavier towards Dumbledore and Grindelwald.
Yeah, plot changing faster than the Star Wars sequel trilogy.
100%. I was gonna make that comparison too. How like these three movies, like there are some similarities between these three Fantastic Beasts and the sequel trilogy, and like there's, I don't know, no cohesion, or like they're kind of retconning events from other previous movies. I don't know, but Matt, what were your thoughts on Credence overall? Like, do you like what they did with his arc in this movie? Do you see a role for him down the road?
Yeah, I like what they did because he wasn't on screen too often. He was on screen the perfect amount of time, in my opinion. I didn't mind like all the messages and the steam and the mirrors and all like that. All that stuff was good.
Yeah.
Ezra Miller, he did a good job, but like lousy human being. But anyways, well, we won't get into that. He's still gonna be the Flash in the upcoming movie, so we'll see it. More on that later. What I really like, I mentioned the two main things I like, but like thirdly, aesthetically and stylistically, I love this movie. All the settings, like the locations were fantastic, and the dueling. Like we've seen a lot of wand battles now, like the 8 Harry Potter movies, and now the 3 Fantastic Beasts movies. Like they have a lot to go on, and this was done beautifully. I love the Professor Hicks, Lally.
Yeah.
Lolly, I forgot how we all agreed to pronounce her name. Late. Anyways,
Lolly.
her fighting was awesome, and she even like kind of like
she's really cool.
she even boasted on like, I'm pretty good charmer, like defensive
Yeah,
charms. That
true.
was awesome. And the Grindelwald, like all that stuff at the end was amazing. I thought like the fighting looked really good. We didn't get a ton of it in the movie, but we got like what they did do was great.
I agree. I find it's more than just wand movement. The way I find we saw it in Harry Potter. The dueling is much more intense and aggressive in these movies, so it's more interesting.
Yeah, I was loving like the pocket dimension duels, like the Grindelwald versus Dumbledore at the end, and then the Dumbledore violence in the streets of, I believe, perhaps Germany, between Credence and Albus. Like that was cool. Albus just owning a young Aurelius, just showing him the ropes out there by the train tracks. It was good entertainment for us. Like you said, not too much wandsmanship, but still enough and a good amount. Like you said, probably the best we've seen other than the Dumbledore-Voldemort duel, which still holds up as the GOAT in my books. I thought that the Grindelwald-Albus duel at the end was like the big duel that they had been hyping up, and was kind of disappointed. But then I remember that it was seen by the masses, whereas this one was taking place in some like Doctor Strange mirror dimension. So it wasn't that. So they're saving the big one for movie number 5, hopefully.
Probably, yeah. I agree.
Loved that stuff. It was great. Yeah.
I like Queenie's arc too in the movie. I don't know who this. I don't know who plays her. Like I haven't seen her in anything else, but like she does an amazing job. I could just like she doesn't have to talk. Like her eyes say it all, and she was very expressive. Her and Jake are great. Like I love like the scene where he's at the dinner and he just looks at her. Like those are the little moments that I love in movies. Like that's why I keep watching movies. Like the little things like that. Even in a big franchise movie, like they have that. So I really appreciated that.
I agree. I really, really liked her in the first one. I thought that she was spunky, little ditzy, but still kind of entertaining. And the second one, I was disappointed. I found she was a lesser version of herself. I barely recognized her when I saw her in this one. I thought she looked so different. And I am glad, though, that by the end she seemed to have kind of seen the error of her ways, or actually I would say Jacob's love just won over. But no, I love their storyline. I think Jacob's my favorite character, to be honest, apart from Pickett and the Niffler. I just love those two. The Botrick and the Niffler are great.
Fan favorites for sure. In my opinion, honestly, I feel like Queenie's arc has gone down since the first movie. Like, I feel like, but then again, you can kind of just attribute that maybe to the fear and, the nerves on being on Grindelwald's side. And like, she's realized, I would assume, in the 5 years in between movies 2 and 3, that she's made a huge mistake. She wants to go back to Jacob, but feels like she can't because Grindelwald's just in control of everything. That's how I could kind of excuse why she acted the way she did, and like at the end of number 2 and then in 3, like she really took a step back in this movie, especially in my opinion. But I did like that Jacob's heart was able to win her back and bring her back to her loving and like fun-loving nature. Especially by the end there, we see like this is the real Queenie. She finally stood up for herself, and like the ending was a great moment for sure. But I feel like she's taken a page out of her sister's book in that she had the personality of a piece of wood in this movie for Tina. But anyways, we can get into her later. But yeah.
like the omission of Tina then?
So I actually read up on that. Apparently, she was cut from the movie because of comments she made, speaking out against kind of J.K. Rowling's views on certain issues, which is what led to, I'm sure, reshoots and just decisions that were made in the editor's room, which is kind of sad. But absolutely, when I didn't know that, I did not miss her character at all because I wasn't really a fan of Tina's character. She didn't do much for me. She's like basically a female Newt, arguably worse. Honestly, I don't really think she's worse, but she just doesn't do anything. So
No.
she wasn't really missed. And Lolly was a huge step up on whatever Tina's brought to the table in the last two movies. She did so in half the screen time. So she was not missed in my opinion. I don't know, what did you two think?
I'm not. I mean, I found her awkward in the first one, but you could tell, like you said, it was probably similar to Newt's discomfort with social interaction. But then in the second and third one, I found she was rather cold with Newt, and I found again that it was slightly immature on her part. It was like her coldness was just her insecurity or wanting him to pay attention to her again, or they had romantic sparks, if you will, in the first one, and then that kind of fizzled, and she just became even more awkward and cold, and I'm not a big fan of hers either, so one Newt is enough, I think, for me.
Well said. Let's put that on a shirt.
I didn't read up on the movie or saw a trailer, so I didn't even know she wasn't going to be in it, and it was a welcome surprise. Did any of you, change the subject, did any of you get massive goosebumps when, like, the Hogwarts, like, castle, like, the music came on when they...
I always love it.
For sure.
Huge nerd chills.
They had, like, every single big song in there, too. Like, off the top thinking of names, but of songs, I'm forgetting them, but I feel like there were a few iconic Harry Potter songs that came up in the movie, and every time I had a huge smile on my face. Like, that's what we love. One of the things we love, anyways, about the Harry Potter universe, and obviously going back to Hogwarts, like, very few things beat that.
Seeing Minerva.
Yep, little cup of tea.
I just died laughing.
And even like little Hogsmeade trips was cool. Like Aberforth knew it was him. I think I said it out loud in the field, like, that's Aberforth. And just nice. I thought the casting for Aberforth was unreal, by the way. I think he did a great job as Aberforth. Had the cadence of his voice down, the mannerisms, you just know there's many layers to that onion, and he's planted the seeds for a foundation of what's to come in the future movies for that character. Underrated.
Yeah, and he's supposed to be slightly less likable than Albus. That's the point. That's the source of the resentment. So you're right. He's well cast. And I think the other thing I noticed that they did a lot, especially whenever they had Hogwarts scenes in the three movies, was they would reference names. That was pretty much the only thing they were referencing with Harry Potter franchise is a lot of the names were Death Eater names that would later come up, but they would call on students and use names that I recognized from Harry Potter. But other than that, there's very little to be transferable between the two worlds. But yeah, Minerva's always a fun person to see.
No Nagini in this one. It's shocking. I mean, like, what happened to her character after the last movie? Like, was she not part of the crew at the end of the movie? The second one, when they go back to Hogwarts, or was she not there?
No, she did not cross the flames.
No. I'm saying when Newt and his squad go back to Hogwarts with Dumbledore, and I'm pretty sure Jacob is part of that crew. Was she there? Do you remember or no? Tough to say.
But I did read something interesting about Jacob is if you notice the expression on his face, he's very, very confused. And it's because it was mentioned in Harry Potter, but when Muggles see the building of Hogwarts, it's in ruins, and there's a sign that says "Danger, keep out." Right. So he sees all these people staring in awe at this building that he sees in ruins, and he's wondering, why are we here? So I hadn't picked up on that, but then when I saw the picture frame of that, I thought, oh, that's actually pretty funny. And Yeah, I mean, if you want to segue into Jacob's character, I absolutely love him. I find him. I remember mentioning he reminds me a bit of a sort of uh, Bilbo Neville Longbottom, if you will, like Bilbo Baggins Neville mashup, where they're very likable. They're kind of an unlikely hero, and their biggest asset is their kindness and their love for people, and that's what kind of saves them and other people in the story. And I love that it's a Muggle and he doesn't need any magic to be part of the group, and yet he makes a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
And there are already people who compare Gandalf and Dumbledore so much, so I think it's funny that once again you have the wise old wizard who tells the person, you know, you're stay who you are and you've grown and you've changed and this and that. And I think it's important to highlight characters like that, not just the wand wielding heroes, but
it's a
quite loving ones.
great comparison.
Jacob is almost us.
Coreless wands or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jacob is like us almost, like he's doubting from the beginning, like, why are you taking me along?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like the whole Bilbo. Very good comparison, actually. That's awesome. I didn't even think of that. And he wasn't over the top, like a one-liner every 2 minutes. It's like just perfect timing, you know, on the train he was hilarious. Just like the frying pan gag. Doesn't go over the top, just like a couple times, like, oh, tuck it under my arm again. Just,
I like how he
very
swaps
subtle.
it out. Yeah, when he gets the wand, he knew it was an upgrade.
Yeah.
So maybe I missed something, like that wand, it's just like, there's nothing special about it, right?
There might be, like, I think that there is magic to the wood, but not necessarily magic that a Muggle can use consciously.
Okay.
I was gonna say, because I don't think he used any magic or performed any like spells in the movie.
I'm not sure. There was that weird cloud thing where he's holding the wand, but I don't know if that was just spell work and he's the scapegoat buffoon in the middle acting like he's controlling it. But
I think that's
like
what it was.
I wouldn't be surprised, given the high level of fantasy in this world, there are items that have magic on their own without requiring conscious thought from a wizard to be used. So I'm not sure. I wouldn't be surprised with hidden surprises, especially on Dumbledore's part, of foreseeing the use of certain objects and things. So who knows? We'll see if he manages any kind of spell work in the next 2 movies.
Never know. Like Ned in the latest Spider-Man movie was opening portals to different dimensions without any prior use of magic beforehand, other than it running in his family. So you never know what's possible.
Never know.
He was great again, honestly. Like I said earlier, I think one of the best characters, I should say, of this franchise. Like effortlessly funny. Like Matt said, he's subtle. It's not beating you over the head with a frying pan constantly with one-liners. Like this, Dan Fogler's delivery is money. Like when I forget exactly how he says the line, but when Theseus, they're in the train, he's like kind of making fun of the crew that they've assembled, and then Jacob responds like, "Hey, you're one of us, pal. Like you're part of this ragtag group as well. Stop acting like you're better than us." Like the way he said it was just dynamite. Very few can imitate the delivery of a Jacob Kowalski. But no, he did his thing once more. I just kind of wonder now what's in store for a character like that going forward. Is he going to develop more magical abilities now that he's married by blood to a pure blood? And I just don't know what's in store for him down the road. Any thoughts on what we could see from a Jacob post movie number 3?
I think that's pretty much it. Is seeing him more actively, I guess, interact with the wizarding world, perhaps as the first Muggle to do so, or in recent history at least. So, I mean, they were pretty much one of the first mixed blood marriages, and by the Harry Potter franchise, it's pretty common. So I mean, we'll see. He could be an emblem for Muggles wanting to join the the wizarding world. Yeah.
Were they not the
first? The fourth one, like they need Queenie's help, so Jacob just comes along. Like they're a pair now, so helping out our protagonists. So perfect.
Yeah.
What do you guys think specifically of like Jude Law? Like I love him as an actor, and just from the opening scene in the diner, loved it. He
So
really
I'm
like.
usually not a huge fan of Jude Law, but I really liked him in this role. And I think it's because I find he has a very intense face. I'm thinking about different movies that I've seen him in, and I think the hat and the beard and the
Mm-hmm.
fact that we hardly ever see him like face on fully. He's usually, I was gonna say side face, but from the profile or from the back or whatever. So I found that we were focused very much on his portrayal of Dumbledore and not Jude Law. You kind of had to look, I find, to
Mm.
recognize him in there. And I thought he was great. It is a bit of a switch from what we've seen of the more traditional Dumbledore, even with the outfits, in the Harry Potter franchise and all that. But at the end of the day, you can only, like we said earlier, you still have to kind of stay true to yourself as an actor. So you don't want to perfectly mimic someone else. But for what he's doing in this franchise, I really like him.
No, you're right. His drip is cold. Like he's got way too much style to be a Dumbledore almost. But I
Yeah.
guess the fashion trends have changed by the time we get to the Harry Potter movies, and he's in his later age, so can't be dressing up as dapper as he does in these movies. But I love Jude Law as Dumbledore. Like he's just a cool Dumbledore, honestly. And it's funny that you said that. Like we're always looking at him from like an angle. He's always like got the head turn and some mischievous grin. Like he's always two steps ahead of everybody and killing it. Honestly, like I said, he was one of my favorite components of the last movie and was again for this one. I loved, yeah, just the whole blood pact to all the Grindelwald stuff that they're tied together, and then how that was broken, and now going forward, how he's gonna be going up against his former best friend and lover. So that'll be interesting to see how they explore that down the road. But no, he did a fantastic job. No complaints at all about Jude Law as Dumbledore.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the blood pact. I'm glad they did that because that was pretty much the essence of the movie, like you said earlier, Matt. Or
Yeah.
else it's purely a filler movie, but at least in this way, we're moving one step closer towards the showdown. But can't remember if there's another character we haven't discussed, a major character from the trilogy so far.
Well, we haven't spent too much time on Newt. Don't know if we really
Newt. I
need
was just
to,
gonna say, I
but
just remember Newt. Yeah, I liked it. I mean, in the first one, you could tell that he is uncomfortable with social interaction, kind, and, appreciates and respects magic and nature and the animals. In the second one, I thought he was just overbearingly uncomfortable, and I found that. Well, the point is, by the end of the first one, he's found somewhat like-minded people, so he should be a little more confident in himself. And then the second one, he's even less so, and even more, as Eric pointed out, hunched over with horrible posture. And so I'm glad that by the third one, he seemed to have regained his confidence. And
a little bit.
I have a hard time believing that he could rally people behind himself as a leader when he's buckled over all the time and just pretty much hiding beneath his hair. So, I'm not the world's biggest fan of Newt, but you do need, the quieter, likable character, and it's interesting as a protagonist, but it's unfortunately they rely on the other characters to kind of liven up the cast, given his portrayal.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Matt, thoughts?
That was a positive in this movie that Newt was not always like the main focus. And what was I gonna say? Newt without Tina was a lot like there was less interaction because she wasn't in the movie, so that was good. He does not exude leadership or confidence. So he's a very cringy. Cringe is the biggest word.
Oh.
Like the first movie took a half hour just to get used to watching Eddie Redmayne act as this character. I was like, oh my god, it's cringy.
Yeah. For
but
me,
he
I
does
lost.
a great job. Eddie Redmayne does a great job because it's the picture of cringe. But I'm used to it now. 3 movies in, like I'm used to it. I love the character now. Like he's likable to me. Hilarious scene with in the Scorpion dungeon. I don't know what else to call that.
Overextended its welcome, in my opinion, but it was funny at first.
I mean, it's become his trademark to have a dance with an animal in each one. And the first one, he's some kind of, buffalo pig or something. The second one, he's licking the ground, and then the third one, he's lobster pelvic dancing. So
Yeah.
who knows what he's going to do in the fourth and fifth? But there's going to be something. And but for me, in the second one was when he was trying to describe Tina's eyes like salamanders, and I almost turned the movie off, to be honest, when I rewatched it, because I don't know. Sometimes they went a little too far with his, as you say, cringe. I was trying to avoid using that word, but that's the word that comes to mind, to be perfectly honest.
Newt is the guy you do not want to be stuck with in a one-on-one at a family get-together. Like, so what's up with you these days, Newt? Like, oh yes, I've discovered this new whatever. Like, just want
who I'm thinking of.
Honestly, I just
doesn't even need to be said. But yeah, no, it's
I think Eric the whole time would be wondering what's going to come popping out of his breast pocket and liner and whatever, what creature he's hiding.
But that's honestly like probably the best thing he brings to the table are his trusty pals like the Niffler and Groot. They're the best things that he brings to the table, right? I'm a huge fan of those. Like those two and Newt by,
perfect.
I guess, association or the Holy Trinity. But you could axe Newt and just have a dynamic duo of them two and you'd be a much better place. But anyways, they're great. Like the Niffler diving to save the tree, but really going for the money was obviously crowd pleasing moment. Got some chuckles. It was gold. I'm surprised that Niffler's still going, to be honest. I thought he was going to be a one movie guy, but he's killing the game, and I hope they bring him along for the rest of the movies. I was a huge fan of the hot air balloon duck dragon at the beginning of the movie. I thought it was unreal. Would have loved to see that thing pop up again. Maybe a complaint I have, though, is not enough beasts despite it being in the title, and that's why the name of the episode you'll see below us is Fantastic Beasts, Where Are You? They're really getting away from the beasts, and I do hope that they introduce more in the later movies. Like, that was the big appeal of the first one. The second one, I think they're, like, freaking weird animals. They had, like, these cats with huge eyes or something there in the...
Yeah, and the ministry.
The French ministry of magic.
I don't think
sure.
they have. I like the direction of the no beast. Like when the title card came up, Fantastic Beast was written so small. I'm like, okay, now we're getting to Harry. Like they're transitioning to like just a wizarding like franchise.
Very true. Which I'm okay with, to be honest. Like I do like the Grindelwald and Dumbledore overtaking the beast at the end of the day, but maybe like sprinkle a few more in there. Like
I think you're right, Eric, with that. Since they're usually tied with Newt, they help dilute him so that they,
it's true.
Like you said, sprinkle them in a little bit more to just liven up the Newt scenes. And I agree, I love the scene in the movie. Forget the lobster dance and just cut to the Groot and the Niffler diving for the wand. That was very funny. And I'm sure we'll see them again. Not sure if they're going to pull a Hedwig and just end the Niffler at some point, but we'll see.
I'm a huge fan of Newt's briefcase too. Like another good thing he's got going for him.
Did you guys catch when Bunty asked to make? She's like, "I'll take half a dozen of them," but then when Dumbledore only has 5 of them, like it was obvious, right? Like none of those were gonna be the suitcase. Did you guys get
True.
that?
No, I did not catch that.
No, I did not. But I did like the nod to the bakery when they opened the suitcase and the baked goods. I thought that was classic Jacob. But no, I did not pick up on that.
I thought you were gonna say a nod to the 7 Potters from Deathly Hallows Part 1. Like that was kind of their version of all the diversions and like the many briefcases, aka the many Harrys. That easy comparable to be made. But no, I was too caught up in the moment of our crew just annihilating all of Grindelwald's supporters like they're like novice second years at Hogwarts. Like there are no trouble whatsoever for our crew to take them down, which was okay because there were an infinite number of them. But no, it was an entertaining scene. Bunty coming in clutch at the end there. Completely forgot her name before we started recording this. I had to look it up. But she was another whack job as well. Like, cut from the same cloth as Newt. The only way someone could willingly spend that much time around a guy like that. But
I think she really likes him, right? Like, you can see it in her.
Oh yeah, you can tell.
oh yeah, probably the most pure relationship between any two characters in that franchise.
And do you think Theseus likes Professor Hicks? Like, he was
Absolutely.
like,
Oh yeah, right away.
to her?
Absolutely.
And you know what I was thinking too? When Lowly was introduced in the movie, there seemed to be maybe some chemistry between her and Newt. And then when his brother comes up, he stole the show, and Newt was like, fuck, like my bro's gonna steal another girl from me kind of thing, like he did with Letta Lestrange. That's what I thought immediately. And he was even waiting, like, hey, are you gonna introduce me to this girl? And then Bob's your uncle at the end. That's his date to the wedding, so Theseus moves smoothly, whereas Newt is just left in the dust, hang out with his pet tree. And
And the climax, like the reveal, like when Grindelwald gets like not demasked, but like everyone knows like he faked everything.
Yeah.
Love that whole reveal, and he couldn't do anything about it because everyone's watching. And
Oh, with
I
the
love
the
moments like
sword.
that.
the Quillin.
Love moments like that.
I thought that it would attack. I can't remember because I think they mentioned that they bow to purity or whatever, and then they said that they also react in front of pure evil. So I was expecting
Yeah.
the bow first, obviously, and then I was expecting the kind of not so cute side of the creature to come out, but we didn't see it. We'll see.
I'm surprised Newt didn't imitate the not so cute version and just like growl at Grindelwald.
You're right though. They did mention that for a reason. Like I thought that was gonna come up.
Yeah.
It does a sound if yeah. Good call. They don't say anything for nothing in this movie, so
That's true.
a lot of the dialogue comes back.
Yeah.
And just like little things too, like Santos, I think the lady was called, one of the candidates.
Okay.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
Like when she
The
just
one
like
who
stops
won?
the Cruciatus curse, like like she's actually like good-hearted, not like the other guy.
Right.
Like little hints, like little things like that, I appreciate in movies. Not in your face, just.
Yeah, that was rough actually for Kowalski getting crucioed like that.
He took it like a man, though. Like
He
was
did.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. Again, curious to see who makes it to the end
Ooh.
of the 5 movies. What I'm saying.
Who would you drop? Like if you were in charge.
So, I think Eric and I had the same idea that we thought that Jacob might be being dropped that movie.
Yeah, honestly, did think he was done. Like that he was gonna get executed, not just crucioed there. Like both thought like that was
Because
his.
he kind of represents kindness and innocence and all that. So by killing him, it's definitely going to be a point of no return for Grindelwald and his party of followers, because that's something that some people will not be able to get past. Whereas killing another wizard probably happens more often and less significant. So I think there would be more value to Jacob's death than, say, Queenie's.
Or like Lestrange's death, we already forgot about. It wasn't even mentioned once in this movie, right? And wizards die.
I wasn't the biggest fan of hers, but
Nah. She was like, "Oh, there's a Catwoman audition. All right, I'm out of here. Let's get out of this sinking ship." But yeah, I think that would have been a good time for him to go, honestly, and it would have been very impactful. An act of war.
yeah.
This is the turn in the franchise now into the true darkness. Yeah, but now
And
going.
it might have been more Queenie's fault that way as well.
She has to live with that guilt the rest of her life.
Kind of, yeah, that's what I'm saying, that she wasn't by his side, and, her switch was all for nothing if she's not even able to be with the person she loved, so
Yep.
we'll see.
I would have applauded if they would have killed off Kowalski. Like that takes a lot of like he's the most beloved character. We can easily say that. So
Yeah.
that would have upped
It would
my
have been
rating of the movie.
It would have been a George R. Martin move.
It would have been 100%.
Yeah.
Or a
I think,
MCU move.
Yeah, exactly. Something that he said that I enjoyed was you have to know that even your main characters are not safe, or else there's no tension in a scene because they're the main character. You know they're going to survive. And let's be honest, we kind of had that with Harry. We always knew he was going to get away with it. So
Yeah.
it would be fun to see if the main characters in this franchise aren't as safe or protected.
Because, like we know, the only two shoo-ins to not die are Grindelwald and Dumbledore, right? Like, I don't know what Newt goes on to accomplish pre-Harry Potter.
Yeah, we
Maybe he
never
will
hear
die
about
in
him.
one of these movies. Like, as far as I'm concerned, Newt is fair game. I don't think he will die, though, to be honest. I could definitely see Theseus dying, Queenie, Yusuf, Lolly. They're all fair game. I have a feeling Tina is going to go on to do great things if she's able to make her way back into this universe. But actually, that's a question now that I want to pose for when we're looking at the future of this franchise. I don't want to be thinking like this going forward, but there is a possibility that they don't decide to make more of these movies. They kind of wrapped to a certain degree the story up nicely with this movie in that it ended on a positive note. The first Muggle and witch wedding of ever. We have Dumbledore walking through the streets, perhaps at peace or pondering a question, who knows? And Grindelwald is on the run. We know eventually he's going to be captured. I don't know. Like, this could have been the end, but I really hope it's not because there is more that could be done with this franchise, in my opinion. But what do you think?
I agree. They're definitely still, as far as we know, given our appreciation for the storyline, we know that they're building towards something bigger. Unfortunately, given the controversy regarding several actors in the movies, I guess, and the box office outcomes or something like that. But I agree that they might not continue the movies. I think that would be a shame. But I don't know. Did you want to tackle like in terms of character arc or plot first for the future?
We
Or,
can do both. We spent a lot of time on both, so let's just sprinkle them
yeah.
both in together.
So I agree. We know where the story is heading for Grindelwald and Dumbledore. We know that Dumbledore triumphs and acquires the wand. We know that Grindelwald will end up in his own Nuremberg jail in the end at the hands of his followers. Other than that, don't really know what happens. And I guess in regard to the characters, so Newt, it's hard to tell. I feel like we might have heard about him through Hagrid or Neville or something at some point if he had gone on to do more for the Wizarding World, but we never know. I think it would be more significant and perhaps enjoyable if he died, but I think Jacob is probably, again, like I said, a significant death. I definitely see Theseus dying rather than Newt at first, but I think stories are more significant when you lose significant pieces to them. So
Sirius Black.
yeah,
Yeah, well,
I don't know what they're gonna do for the fourth one. I feel like we kind of know more for the fifth one if we make it there.
Mm-hmm.
well said, Chrissy. I'm not gonna speculate on plot, but I'd like to just, for tone wise, I'd like to see a more darker, like Half-Blood Prince, Deathly Hollows feel, where like
Yeah,
deaths and just more intense. You can still keep it PG-13. That's fine. Like they're all gonna be PG-13, but like just make it more grim. Do a time jump like this many years later, and like this is going on. It's not in a good situation right now.
yeah.
I like when there's a lot of tension, like
The
and
possibility
danger
of
can happen.
that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I just want that kind of type of atmosphere, and I know it'll be more grim to watch, but the stakes will be so much higher, and there's gonna be like when good ultimately triumphs over evil, it'll be that more rewarding.
I think that might be why they've edged their way away from the beasts and the fun and the curiosity of the animals, because in the end they are telling a rather grim story, and maybe, as Eric said, pepper in the animals just for comic relief and for fun. But
Yeah.
who knows where they're going to go with the plot and the characters.
I agree with what you're saying though. On like the next one should be like a Empire Strikes Back, like the villains win in the next one. Like I was kind of hoping, I think I already said this in the episode there, but I was hoping that Grindelwald would win in this episode, not in this movie. Not surprising coming from me as a noted villain advocate, but I think this would have been a right time to make him come out on top. And I guess you can argue that at the end of the second movie, the villains kind of win because Queenie does join forces with Grindelwald, and Credence, like, sick ending in my opinion, like a nice twist that he's going to be a villain now, or he's motivated by hate and revenge. I guess you don't want to go back-to-back combo platter evil wins for number 2 and 3. So now at the end of 1, the good guys win. At the end of 3, the good guys win. Let's do on even numbers, the bad guys win. So I think in the next one it needs to be crushing Theseus death. Queenie dies as well. Jacob takes up her mantle as Legitimans and learns how to read minds and stuff. Newt drops the cringe. By movie 5, he's actually a beast now. He's in order. He's done with the animals. He's taken on Theseus's role as head order at the ministry. He's an angry. No, he's got to still be, like, I guess, kind of happy by the end of it there. But I think that's what they need to do in the next one, is go dark, big defeat for the good guys.
Yeah.
No Credence, like I said, we're done with Credence. Like, maybe he sends in a postcard or something, or he's just dead off screen, because it looked like I said, he was like dying, decaying at the end of this movie. There, the Phoenix was practically more alive than him, and even that looked like in rough shape. So I think you just move on from him. I don't know what to do with Aberforth there, but bring Lolly back. She was great. Anyways, that's what I think. Bad guys win in 4. Good guys win in 5. That's my take. But actually, during 5, at some point, Voldemort comes around and interacts with Grindelwald or something, if that's possible.
Yeah, I don't remember the dates exactly. You're right, though. I would start off the tone of the 5th one much grimmer. If in the 4th, at the end, the bad guys seem to be triumphant. And I think what would help is if the 4th one, we see much more of Mads' side and his team and their planning. I find oftentimes in stories of good versus evil, you only see the evil character in his evil-looking mansion with evil creatures, and you don't get a lot of character development that way. So I think that given the quality of acting and how much we already care for him in terms of a portrayal of a bad guy, give him more screen time and show him doing things other than just evil things plotting for power.
Yeah, make him more sympathetic, and like he's not the bad guy in his mind, right? It's just a point of view.
No. So that's why make him sympathetic, show how smart he is, show how good he is, not necessarily cold and cruel and power hungry, because that gets old pretty fast.
Agreed. And yeah, we really didn't know who his henchmen and women were. Like his new right-hand woman, like, couldn't tell you her name, wand to my head. And but I thought she was good, honestly. Like, she looked like a villain. Like, she's good looking and just like always had like a smirk on her face, like she's plotting something too. Like, she was a solid addition. Weird Credence as a villain, honestly, wasn't exactly what I was hoping for, but anyways, don't need to go over that again. But yeah, I agree. I would like to spend more time with Grindelwald and what motivates him and just what he gets up to in the day-to-day. Like, it's a day in the life of Grindy. Like, cool.
Let's get their day in the life, yeah.
Little vlog. So it was cool seeing him with the Elder Wand, though, I will say. Like, I liked seeing him, like, extract all memories of, I think, the Lestrange family lineage from that guy's mind.
Yeah.
That was a cool and also like a hauntingly beautiful scene. Just like imagine all those memories just gone in thin air. Thought it was interesting.
See, I found the bath scene hauntingly beautiful because he's cradling the creature and there's a certain tenderness to it, but he slit that creature's throat and
that was rough.
So I thought that was probably one of my favorite scenes for Grindelwald because you saw a little more about him, and again, we'll see.
Yeah,
I don't know, Matt, what did you think for movies 4 and 5 coming up?
What do I think? Here's a question I'm gonna pose to both of you: Is do you want to see? And this is like, just like, okay, do you want to see a movie with more like set piece action esque, like little like scenes like in the Scorpion Dungeon or Lobster Dungeon and big like action spectacles, or do you want a more intense like dialogue driven, intense confrontation type of movie where it's mostly driven by dialogue and great acting, or do you want a more like superhero-esque like action spectacle in your fourth and fifth movie? Like, what's your preference?
I much prefer the dialogue and character development. The action stuff, I find you get over stimulation or whatever you want. Like, it just at some point you lose. You're too high the whole time. The tension and the action is too high. At some point, loses its buzz. I think that was, again, to reference Game of Thrones for some reason, but the Battle of the Bastards was like one of those rare occurrences where you have a very long battle and it's interesting. And I would have cut that lobster scene short, a little bit shorter even in the movie. The lobsters are funny. The giant scorpion tail, not useful. We all know they're getting out. They're not dying by a scorpion sting at this point. So.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want Transformers Dark Side of the Moon, which is basically just a very long action scene. I want, like, this is a tall order asked for there, but like a Lord of the Rings style, like you get your great action set pieces, but also fantastic dialogue scenes. Like, I don't want, like, one or the other would be tough because I can't say I wouldn't want big action set pieces in this kind of universe that is so unique and one of a kind in that. And I know that's the same thing as unique, but like Harry Potter magic, you don't get that anywhere else. So you want to capitalize on as much grand action as possible. But I also do like that character development and all that. But maybe trim the fat in the sense that focus on a few characters and put some Bunties and Yusufs to the side and just focus on your main core, right? Because there's not enough screen time for everybody in here.
Yeah.
And like it's a movie, not a TV show, so.
True.
Yeah.
I agree with you mentioning that. Let's not forget it is a wizarding world with the fun of magic and wands. I personally, after however many movies we've had of this entire world, I enjoy now the more creative uses of magic. We know that wands can unlock doors and make things fly, but so I think that's what I really enjoyed about Miss Hicks was seeing her wand work and how creative she was with the spells that we've seen already.
Yeah.
All right, that loved everything you guys said. I completely lost my thought. Oh yeah, the action and stuff. Like, to me, like right now at the top of the action, like what everyone has to top is like the Marvel movies in terms of action. So like, there's no point trying to top that stuff, and you just go more character based. Okay, I remember what I was gonna say. Jumping around, there are a lot of characters jumping around this movie, and it's I think it's one of the flaws of the movie. It jumps around to like, okay, now we're gonna hang out with him. Now we're jumping here. When you don't care about a couple of them, like that's what makes it could be a disadvantage to the movie. It is a disadvantage to the movie. Let's be honest. I wanted to keep going back to Grindelwald, but you don't see him all the time. You're jumping back and forth. So maybe trim the characters like you and Eric said. Like eliminate the weakest pegs in the chair. So good, well said, guys.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully we are able to get more of these movies down the road because this was an important movie. Like, this is actually like the sink or swim moment that could either get this series axed or breathe new life into it, and it can be reborn from the ashes as a phoenix would, right? So we'll see what happens going forward. Like, I do hope that they don't cancel this series and they make the final two as intended, and we'll see what's to come. I mean, we've been talking about this movie for a long time, like a solid hour. I'm just curious. I have a quick question, like to gear back a little to just Harry Potter, like, would you be on board if down the road we got more like Harry Potter centric storylines, like either like they did with the sequel trilogies in Star Wars, bring back an older Harry, older Ron, older Hermione, and what they're up to. Like, let's say 20 years down the road, they decide to pick up a story with their kids or something like that. Like, would you want to see that, or should we let the past die and alternatively have another series set in the Harry Potter universe that has nothing to do with anything and everything Harry Potter? It's just set in this world of, like, they go to Hogwarts or whatever, but no mention, maybe like an offhand, like, book mentions, like, oh, Harry Potter did this back then. Like, it's irrelevant. Like, we're on to new people in the world of magic.
I think we had discussed it actually on the Harry Potter podcast, and we had nailed down Matt's terrific idea of a show called Longbottom.
Well, I know that was a terrific idea, but it's just from these two options.
Around with his pretty much newt-esque creatures, but I think I had mentioned the Marauders. Thinking back, I think we get enough information on them with the books anyways, and I don't think I'd be a fan of having the kids go to Hogwarts. I feel like they'd be constantly compared to their parents or whatever, and I'm someone who likes a movie or a show based on the time setting of it, the period setting. So that was one of my favorite things about Fantastic Beasts with the 1920s, the booming years of the 1920s and 30s, and how interesting those are with the cars and technology. I really enjoy that. Right. So I think I would enjoy, once again, a different time period, maybe even the founders of Hogwarts or something like that. So going back even further rather than forward. I'm someone who enjoys more historical pieces, so I guess that weighs in on my answer.
So just completely omitting my two options, but that's cool.
So then I would say, Eric, just unrelated characters rather than
there we go.
The next gen of the Harry Potter characters.
Okay, that's fair.
I was gonna go with unrelated characters, but there's something inside me that wants to keep seeing what Harry's up to, and Ron and Hermione, and I just want to see it in Neville, of course, botany or whatever.
I think that the 19 years later scene just did not work for me, and the fake bellies and the beards.
Here's what they should do. You wait till Rupert and Emma and Daniel are all old enough to play themselves at that age, and you do a movie when they're all in their 50s and 60s. You make that movie. Yeah, you're gonna have to wait another 20 years or whatever.
I feel like Emma's gonna look that way for 20 years, to be honest.
Emma's gonna look stunning regardless.
Yeah.
So it would literally be like the sequel trilogy of Star Wars then, like when they're much older, and so.
I think they're gonna do that.
Yeah, they're definitely gonna revisit this universe in one way or another.
I've heard that Cursed Child is in the works for cinematic, either
a movie,
show or
really?
a movie.
Okay.
Not a fan of Cursed Child, but that's
just was all right.
Befuddled by the plot.
It's a play, so they can change stuff to make it into an actual movie. And maybe I don't know.
Like, who's sleeping with Voldemort is my question. Like, how did that happen? A few too many butter beers for whoever poor sap. I don't know. Like, was it not his kid in the book? Like, that's so out there.
But Bellatrix was the mother.
Oh, okay, I could see that then.
Yeah. No butter beers required on her part.
I guess I'm more now. I keep making these Star Wars comparisons, like Sheev Palpatine, like how? Just, anyways, yeah, okay, sounds good. I would like to see unrelated, to be honest, just something that has nothing to do with the Harry Potter world, but is set in that world. And if it was in the future, like, I wouldn't want them to be in, like, modern times. It could just be an alternate universe, honestly. Because I wouldn't want kids at Hogwarts to have, like, iPhone 10s and stuff and just be like, magic sucks. Like, I'll play Wordle. So, Huge Wordle guy, by the way. Not hating on Wordle at all.
Oh, how about this? It just popped in my head. A sports like a Quidditch centric Harry Potter show where it's all about like the sports angle. It's about a Quidditch season, and it's about like it's basically like the highlight of every episode would be like an intense, full blown Quidditch match.
That'd be great.
Like Remember the Titans or something really
Yeah.
intense.
Moneyball.
And
Yeah, just Quidditch centric.
Yeah.
Like, who cares about what's going on in the wizarding world? Just like the four houses. Which, by the way, speaking of the four houses, I did like a bunch of these tests over the last few months, rewatching the Harry Potter movies. I am a Hufflepuff, folks. Hufflepuff. I don't want to be Hufflepuff. I just am. There's no denying it.
I think that's the trademark
I don't know
of
what it is.
Hufflepuff.
I was gonna label you like a Ravenclaw, honestly, which I feel like is a solid house.
I'm Hufflepuff like Cedric. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. That's a solid champion.
Frederick's a great reference.
Now, I'd be all on board with that kind of series, Matt. Like a rogue bludger or something. Like there's some corrupt angle also. Like if it's either at Hogwarts, then it's more on the amateur side, right? Like the collegial level. Whereas if we're looking at the Bulgarian leagues, there might be some corruption in there. Who knows? Like that'd be very, very interested in seeing what's going on over there. So, man, you're 2 for 2 so far with these HBO ideas. Long bottom and Quidditch.
They could both work at the same time, to be honest.
They could. And Neville, if they're gonna revisit Harry Potter, like bring back all the actors for like 30 whatever years down the road, Neville is 100% a professor at Hogwarts. There's a 0% chance he's not teaching herbology with Madame Sprout's like granddaughter as his like either I was gonna say wife or teacher's assistant.
His own Bunty.
Full circle. Good. I love the Harry Potter universe, though. Just good stuff.
The movies keep aging beautifully. Like I rewatched most of them a couple months ago, and like a Prisoner of Azkaban, I'm just like, there was a time I didn't like that movie. I'm like, was I crazy? It's awesome. Aged beautifully.
Yeah, agreed. Well, yeah, I think that'd be a good place to wrap it up, unless there are final thoughts on.
No, just thank you for having me on your show again, on your podcast, repping the easy conversations
Yep, let's go.
gear. And as always, it's a pleasure to share my Harry Potter thoughts with you, Eric, and at least now other people get to enjoy our slur of knowledge. But,
Sure. Yeah, we're trying not to be overbearing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh no. Okay, relax.
Try exactly. Just a couple of references here and there, but here's a open platform to just be ourselves, unadulterated as far as Harry Potter references are concerned. So yeah, thanks a lot for joining us, Chris. It was killed it as always, and looking forward to having you on again down the road to discuss perhaps another Harry Potter subject, something else. Who knows? That tons of possibilities. So yeah, thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Chrissy. Great having you on, and I really want to, like, we should do this trivia thing where, like, I want to know how deep your knowledge goes, and I know it goes deep, so quizzing you would be fun.
I was gonna make a nerdy room of requirement joke here of some kind.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's heavily centered on the novels. My knowledge is I've read them just so many times. Not so much in terms of facts for the movies, like directors and running minutes. I don't really know that stuff, but I just Harry Potter is a huge part of my childhood and adolescence, so it's stayed with me and it always will.
And that's where we would come in for trivia to supply that maybe missing movie knowledge in there. And as you and I both know, we made a pretty solid trivia team at the Harry Potter trivia a few years back.
We did.
So, we definitely be due for another go at some trivia Harry Potter themed. So, yeah. All right.
Absolutely. Count me in.
Beauty. Peace.